Hey guys, this is Micheal Beaulieu. This is a video chat with a really cool photographer that's been on my radar for some time, and her name is Danijela Pruginic. She's a really cool Toronto based wedding photographer. She's been shooting weddings for nearly a decade, and her work is a really wonderful mix of sort of dreamy and sensual, portraits and scenes, yet still very humorous and kind of cheeky. So I wanted to connect with her and talk about, how she started shooting weddings, how and how and why her website stands out from the mold, and how that helps attract the right clients for her. The importance of being yourself and how best to communicate that. How she keeps her work and approach fresh and exciting after shooting weddings for so long. And I wanted to know about this magic business, if she believes in magic and what's up with that. So, hope you'll take away a bit of information about her and enjoy this chat. I've not met Daniela before, but I've known her work for quite a while. And of course, if you can see here from her website, it is pretty fantastic because I feel a lot of the work that she's producing has a really sensual, sort of dreamy feel, a little bit nostalgic, and it's right up my alley as far as wedding work goes. So I really wanted to show her work and meet her via the internet and learn a little bit more about her. And let me turn off my phone. So thanks for taking a few minutes today. I'm happy to speak with you, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you. I'm very excited.
Can you, for people that have not met you before or have never seen your work before, do you think you could tell me a little bit about, who you are as a photographer and, what your work is all about?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, like you said, I am based in Toronto, and I have been shooting weddings for the past 10 years, give or take. And I've been sort of doing it slow and steady. Before weddings, I did a lot more commercial work. When I started in photography, I did a lot of assisting of advertising photographers, so I kind of learned a lot about that world, which is what I thought I was going to do, but then decided that it wasn't for me, mostly because it's really staged kind of photography, and I just don't think at that point in my life I had so much to say, I guess. So I wanted to explore, and weddings are perfect for that. So yeah, I've been shooting weddings for the past 10 years. And like a thing that I find is important for any work is to have some kind of I don't know. This might not be a popular opinion, but I feel like having some kind of education in what you're doing is important, even if it's literally just business education. So over the years, I did study photography in school, but over the years, I have been trying to learn just various aspects of the business, and continually working on side projects and art. I think is important. um, yeah, is there anything else? Did I miss anything? That's like a basic intro, I guess.
Yeah, that's an intro. So, what is it about, from, I think a lot of photographers, I mean, I think most photographers probably didn't get into photography because they wanted to become wedding photographers, but, it's like something that
Yeah.
you perhaps I mean, it was the same thing with me. I studied photography professionally for 3 years, and I had no intentions of, I mean, I had never even been to a wedding before. I started shooting weddings as an assistant.
Yeah.
So, what is it about weddings you feel like really good doing? What is it about, because you think about you mentioned advertising photography, and maybe you're in a studio more often, maybe you are, working with the same crew over and over. And so weddings, there is an element of repetition that, I mean, I've been photographing weddings for almost 10 years too.
Yeah.
What is it about weddings for you that you're still fresh on, you're still in love with?
Yeah, it's funny, right? There's got to be something, because after a while it becomes repetitive. But yeah, I mean, I find the repetition like a nice framework. So there are things in weddings, you know how things are going to run overall. which is nice. It's a nice way to go into a day knowing that you have to capture ceremony, speeches, whatever, different parts of the day. But then I really just love the. Let me rephrase. What I love is the when two different like forces, energies come together. Like happy people that are crying, or like during the getting ready. There's like a lot of anticipation, but it's also a little bit dull. Like it can be a bit boring. So that kind of stuff is just nonstop on a wedding day, and it is really dependent on the couple, on the day, on the weather. Like, so you sort of don't know. That's where the unpredictability comes in. So I love that. I love, some weddings are full of them. Some weddings, you really have to work harder to connect to get to that. And it takes something out of me. And it's just, I guess, a different way of working versus studio life, which can obviously be creative because there are people doing it amazingly. I just don't think I ever explored it in that sense. And as an observer, I just love observing. I'm more of like a laid back, quiet person who likes to observe versus being in the middle of things. It just suits me perfectly.
Yeah, that's interesting. I can relate. I mean, I think I can relate to that very much so. And I think the thing that I'm sort of curious about is that, I work alone. I've started working alone or shooting alone for quite some time.
Mhm.
Do you have an assistant, or do you work alone most of the time as well?
It's about half and half. I used to shoot with second shooters a lot, and then I found that I ended up with way too many files that I didn't end up using. So, um, and also sometimes they get in the way when I just want to be able to move around quickly. So it depends. Like if it's a bigger wedding, sometimes it just makes sense to have somebody else there because of scheduling or whatever. But I actually am enjoying working on my own more and more. I just like being around people, so I like having like a little buddy that I pay to be with me on the day. Uh, yeah, but it's about half and half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering because it feels. I mean, I see photographers, and I can almost feel when it looks like it's just them. I might be inputting a lot of my own assumptions on that, which might not be fair, but I just feel it. I can just feel that there's a certain. I don't know. I mean, I feel like with your work, I can connect with it really well because I can imagine myself in the same place that you're at, and I mean, that's just our imagination because we've been there so many times, right? We've been in the same situation, whether it's in whether it's in like a vineyard, or whether it's in a cute forest, or whether it's, somewhere funky and there's all kinds of things going on. I mean, if you've been doing this long enough, I think as a photographer, you have that built-in pressure to know that there's only one chance of getting this right,
Yeah.
and we do our best to make it amazing, whether it's raining or whether it's a super busy cramped hotel room, or worst case scenario situation all the time, and we have to make it look great. So
Yeah.
what does that mean to you? Actually, you mentioned before that you have to connect more, if it's not like, if you're not running all over the place capturing amazing images every 5 seconds. What does that mean to you, connect more with the couple? How, if I'm like
Yeah.
a potential bride looking at your work and thinking, wow, this looks really, really natural, and it looks really, like very effortless. Like, what does that mean as far as your how you are on the wedding day with your couples? Are you really chatty with them? Are you like in the? Are you always off in the corner somewhere, or what can couples like expect when they want to work with you?
Yeah, so that's a great question because I feel like it's hard to describe that. But yeah, so I have found in the past like 3 or 4 years that I would go to the wedding, and of course I did my prep and all that before, but I felt like I still had questions about who they were or what they liked and stuff like that. So I actually put in a lot more time before the wedding to connect with the couple. So I talk to every single person that gets in touch with me, unless they are right off the bat not interested. But yeah, I have a phone chat, like half an hour phone chat with almost everyone. So that helps me. I mean, just to talk to people, it just helps me to gauge what they're after, what is important to them, who they are, to sort of a superficial level at first. And then, of course, there's like the questionnaires and stuff like that that happen after. But I just feel like there's a lot more points of contact and communication before the wedding, so that when, even if they don't do an engagement shoot or something like that, like we actually don't shoot together before. So when the wedding day comes, they feel more like I'm their friend. Um, so it's so on the wedding day, I'm not like exactly like a fly on the wall, because I feel like that's not possible. I just feel like you're part of the day, you're there as much as everybody else, so you're gonna affect the mood. So you might as well bring in what you want, you know. So I'm not an obnoxious like, "Ooh, everybody look at me jump." I don't do jumping photos, but yeah, I just feel like there's a bit of like banter, like a chit chat when it's appropriate. Like during cocktails, I'll be going around and actually like chatting with guests, not just being literally against the wall and trying to shoot like sides of heads, which is, you get those shots, but then you want to get some natural reactions from people. And I just feel like it does take a bit of work in terms of like being there, like there's that person. Otherwise, people give you that look, right? Like, oh, there's the photographer. So you kind of have to get past the barricades. But with a couple, it's a little bit easier because we spend a lot more time before the wedding doing all of this kind of connecting and getting to know each other. And I often say silly things and, talk about, pull out my poses, my shooting poses and stuff like that. Not for them, I mean, for me, the way I shoot. Um, yeah, so I just try and keep it light and easygoing and don't add any pressure. Um, I don't direct unless they're like completely frozen, which doesn't really happen. As long as people are moving and doing something, they'll just be more relaxed. Yeah, it's more just like hanging out. Like it really is just like hanging out, and as if you had a friend who was a really good photographer shooting your wedding. That's kind of what I wanted to feel like.
I feel like that is really big because in any kind of relationship, whether it's like like a romantic relationship or a business relationship, I mean, communication is really, really important.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're like I said before, your website really, I feel like the communication that you have there written, like, "Hey, lover, you're magic." Like, no one writes that. You're not going to find that anywhere. And I actually, now that I think about it, I feel like magic. There's this sort of theme of magic.
Yeah.
Somehow comes up, quite often. It really was magic. Let's make magic. I think on your contact page it said, "Let's make magic." Am I right? Yes. So, do you believe in magic?
I love magic. I know it's kind of cheesy, and there's an element of, yeah, cheese. But I just think there are things that you can't describe in words, so we use different things, photography, painting, whatever, some ways of expressing. And I just feel like those things are not the easiest to, describe. So to me, they're magic. And I definitely like connection between people, that's magic. Like, how amazing is it to connect with somebody on a level where you're not actually saying, oh, I connect with you because this and this, right? So yeah, I do believe in magic.
All right, I'm glad we got that sorted out, and that we're going to let everyone else in the whole world know about that. Because
Amazing.
yeah, I think it's important. I think one of the things also that you're a photographer, you're an artist, but this is a business and people are expecting you to, deliver something to them. So there is a lot of pressure there, but I'm glad um, that there's an element of, fun there. Perfect is boring. Like right away, perfect is boring. Like, can you just tell me what you were thinking? Like, at some point, you started a photography business, and then you got better, and you started photographing weddings, and then and at some point, I mean, this website didn't write itself. So, at one point, were you like, you know what, I need to make some changes, and I think that change is I need to write "perfect is boring" on the front of my website. What are you thinking about all these, bits of communication that are very cheeky and very, and very fun? Can you tell me a little bit about why you do that?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I had a, sort of standard website before, with a nice logo, but it was sort of standard. And I just have always been wanting to. I think everyone does. If you're working in the creative field, you just want to try and express yourself. So the more you dig into that, the more you find people and elements that help you. So along the years, I have been reading Spencer Lum's um, emails. I can't remember, or blog, whatever it was, like years and years ago. And I know you know Spencer, and he's amazing. So yeah, he always delivers things so straight up, and I've always been able to connect with what he's been saying, and he's the kind of person who does so much research into this kind of stuff, like into the psychology of business and selling and stuff like that, which I have never done. So it was very interesting. So I kind of did some work with him, and through some of that work, that's when I started changing my website. And yeah, it really came to the point that you have to be different to a degree that, so you're not like so different that people can't recognize what you're doing. Obviously, it's still wedding photography, but enough so that it shows some of your personality and how you're gonna approach the day. So the couples that get in touch with me, they see that and they're like, "That's that's perfect." Like I had a couple a guy who said to me that he's been searching for so long, and then he found the website with all that stuff, and it's like the light at the end of the tunnel, because it does feel like that. I mean, when you're looking and there's a lot of similar, and people are not either sure of how to express themselves or what to say that is appropriate. So yeah, that's mostly thanks to Spencer. I love him. I love Spencer so much.
Yeah, actually, Spencer's funny. I still drink coffee out of a mug he gave me one day, and it's nothing special. It's like a really I think it was a sort of a more of a metaphor than an actual present. But anyhow, it doesn't really matter how I got it. The fact is that yeah, Spencer's great. In terms of wedding photography, it's very easy to get to. There's so many photographers. There's so many photographers I think every year that come out, and some of them seem like they're really quite good. Technically they're quite good, but I think the business aspect and not only the business aspect, but giving clients a really good experience really takes a while.
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
takes a while, and you have to kind of make some unfortunate mistakes sometimes. I don't think that I don't know about
yeah,
you, but I know that I've made a few mistakes that I learned from in a big way.
for sure, for sure.
In the first couple of years, and never again has has that happened.
Yeah, totally.
Your experience with clients, how do you like to get started? What's important for them? What's important for you to know? And is there anything that's important for them to know about you in the beginnings of that relationship?
Yeah, the things that I would like to know is what's the most important thing to them about the wedding day. So it doesn't even have to be in terms of photography, but what is it they're looking forward to the most? Because that'll set the tone for the wedding. They will set the tone, right? And then knowing a little bit of background, like who are the people that support them, and the important people in their life. That's important to know also because you have that whole background about them. Um, and then I think, it's funny, I used to describe how I work to people a lot more often, but nobody ever asks me anymore. So I think by the time we talk about the day, it becomes kind of clear that I will just let them be, and they just it's all about building trust. They just feel like whatever I do is fine, and I'm pretty easygoing. Like I'm not like I said, a lot of the stuff that I don't like is written on my website. So people know right away. Um, yeah, it see, I know that wasn't even me. It just found me.
Let me ask you about this straight up. I mean, this can be interpreted a few different ways, but I like all that. I feel like you're like the kind of woman who almost can do no wrong at the point because it's like once you've sort of created an environment where it is that playful and it is that cheeky, like I expect that from
Yeah,
I
yeah.
expect that. I don't expect less, I expect more. It's like when you find something you like, you don't want less of it. You just want more of it. And
Yeah.
if I like your website, I just want more. Like I'll be your plastic toy. That could be interpreted. Tell me, can you tell can you tell me what this is about?
So, yeah, that's just like a quote from a song that I thought was appropriate for these guys. And it's interesting because the bride, Pascal, I've known her for a long time. So, saying something like that, I knew she would totally get it. So I wouldn't necessarily do that with somebody that I didn't know would get it. Although after hanging out, I spent like half of my time making inappropriate dirty jokes. So I think people get used to it.
You mean in general or with this couple?
In general, yeah.
So do you think
um,
do you
yeah, it
think
just like puts people at ease because like, why is this girl talking about whatever, getting naked?
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see. I mean, I like. I was actually just here last summer photographing a wedding.
Yeah,
I was actually the mayor's office. It wasn't.
that's
It
crazy.
was kind of interesting. I haven't even blogged it because I don't even know why I haven't blogged it. But
I want to see that. I want to see that wedding.
I see a lot of pictures with heads chopped off and necks chopped off. What is it? What are you trying to communicate with that?
Off with their heads. um, Well, like the limbs are the ones that are moving more, so there's movement there and motion, which is always interesting. Oh, and just different parts of the body. I just feel like it's something that you might notice as an observer, as like somebody who's there. I know that faces are, obviously we're attracted to faces and we'll look at people at their faces, but I just think it adds another dimension of feeling, I guess. It just gives a feeling um, where you're not distracted by the face because like sometimes we have masks on our faces despite, I mean, all the time, despite all our efforts to break them down and get people as honest as you can. um, you just can't always do that, so it's nice to just capture not the face. I guess.
It can be difficult to capture those images because everything sort of has to be right, and the couples have a certain personality, and it's almost like you have to be 5'3" to do those sort of photographs. How tall are you? Are you 5'3"?
No, I'm a little bit taller, but I'm not super tall. I'm like 5'6", so.
Yeah, I think I might be too tall for the wedding photography. I'm a little bit too tall. I feel like I'm kind of like at this angle all the time.
Well, it's also, like how kids, when they shoot, everything's like below, and it's kind of interesting just getting that low angle. You're like, wow, that's really cool. Just going down lower, which I wish I did more of, actually.
Let me ask you another question, and this is for some of the new photographers that might have just started photographing weddings last summer. Maybe they're stalking every photographer on the internet to learn from them. I know I did that at one point
Yeah.
because I had no idea that there was even a thing about wedding blogs or that weddings were. I didn't even know about the wedding photography industry. I thought it was just a job. What would if someone is approaching photographing weddings, or maybe they're going to photograph weddings this summer and they really want to sort of go more in this direction, what is something that they need to be thinking about? Or maybe, do you have any advice for someone who's getting started and is having a harder time getting the kind of images that they're happy with, that are not constructed and overly posed? What would you say to a person like that?
Um, like the number one easiest advice for anybody is to not look at wedding photography, to have other inspiration. It really doesn't have to be anything special. Like, it could just be TV shows. Like we were just watching The Crown last night. Beautiful lighting in that show. So like just anything, and sort of make notes of things. That's one thing. And this is a Spencer thing. Always asking why. Like, why do you like something? Why do you like this light more than another? Like, you notice after a while that you're attracted to certain things more. So just questioning why, and that kind of stuff takes years, and obviously it's never ending. But it's a nice way to get started on feeling more self-confident about your work and being able to explore different things, right? Just kind of get out of the wedding world. And I think that's for any industry. You have your standards, which are easy to learn. You get the standards down, and then you're like, I need to figure out what else you can do. Yeah, like movies are so great, so easy to get inspiration from.
Do you feel, what do you think about, relationships in general? I mean, I know that you are a mama
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
you are probably involved in a relationship, I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
What about, like, do you feel, since we're talking about like weddings and couples and trying to tap into this sort of connectedness, and, what do you think about, did you photograph weddings before you were married? Did you photograph weddings like after you're married? What do you feel about like being a mom and being married, or relationship status? Like, how do you think that affects
Yeah, yeah,
you like, do you feel it makes it, like, has any impact, or what are your thoughts about
totally,
that?
totally. I mean, your life experiences just go with you, right? And I got into weddings at the time when we were looking for our wedding photographer. So that's kind of how I don't know, stumbled upon weddings. And the photographer that shot our wedding, I worked with her for a couple of jobs, and she was really like documentary focused, which was new at the time, which was 10 years ago. So yeah, it just opened up my eyes to this whole new scene. um, but yeah, so for sure, and that now that and we've been together for so long, like almost like actually married 10 years, but together for like 16, 17 years. um, it's Relationships change and stuff. So I just feel like it is nice being around that commitment, when people actually commit to each other. So it's nice having that, but it is also things are changing, whereas not everybody is super young and getting married at 22. Like, I have couples that have been together for years, and then they decide to get married, so they have a different outlook. So I feel like I can relate to, I guess, a wider range of people. And then being a mom, that's like a whole other ball game of fun. Because yeah, it just changes your whole perspective on life. You kind of um, zone in more on what's important. A lot of the changes for my website and all that stuff happened after I had my son, because you have only so much time at first, so you're like really focusing, and I think that focusing helps, which I did not really have the need to be so focused before. So you know, uh, I think any life event like that will definitely, it'll come into the work somehow. And he's older now, so it's not like um, obviously there, like, my family is still my number one. Like, we're taking some time off in the summer to just travel and stuff like that and be together. So I'm not as um, I don't feel so bad if I'm missing out on some things. You know what I mean?
Well, actually, we're both parents, and I can definitely, I mean, I don't know, I don't think it's crazy to think that, because we are most weddings happen on the weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, there is that occasional Friday wedding or Thursday wedding, but I mean, how do you find balancing, being a mom and having a family life and having most of your work take place on the weekend? Do you find, how do you find balancing like, your personal life and your professional life?
Um, I think it's you're either doing one or the other, honestly. Like I just feel like the whole like work-life balance is a bit of a myth. So when I'm committed to shoot a wedding, and I only shoot 20 a year approximately, it's in a good enough number to keep it going and not to be busy every weekend. Um, so yeah, when I'm working, I'm working. I'm not really like thinking about being at home or what they're doing. And when I'm at home, I'm not definitely on the weekends, not thinking about work. It's my time off, So yeah, I think that's work for me. It's just being able to focus on one or the other, wherever I am. Um, it's hard otherwise. You can't be like thinking about different things or wishing that you're somewhere else. It's just not that doesn't work.
So, do you have anything you like to do to unwind?
Um, Unwinding. What is that? uh, well, just going outside, I think it's really nice, and not having like my cameras with me or something. Like not having the pressure to capture everything. Um, I just love watching TV and just being with my family. We don't do that much. Traveling's nice, but we're just starting to get into more traveling now because my son's. I just didn't want to travel when he was a baby because I find it stressful. um,
Yeah, totally.
yeah.
I took my kids to Cuba, and when they were young, 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 and it's almost easier. I see these like babies at weddings, and I think, oh my God, I can just feel for the parents because I
Yeah.
know the whole routine is just like out the window. But it's almost easier when they're infants because they're so young.
Yeah.
But when they're 3, it's like, oh man, this is gonna
The
be
routine.
terrible.
Yeah. I know. You suffer for weeks for lapses in the routine.
I know, I know. So I want to know that the winter is a bit of a slow period. Sometimes we're not shooting as many weddings. I know. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm not shooting as many weddings. So, is there anything coming up that you are looking forward to or you're excited about?
Yes. So I'm part of this art show called the Love Actually Show. And it is put on, curated by another photographer from Toronto, Scarlett O'Neill. And it is really all about the moments in weddings, just real moments. So none of the details and, that kind of stuff. And it's on right now for all of February at the Gladstone Hotel. We just had the opening night last Thursday, and it was amazing. It was so much fun, and it's nice to see photographers and the couples coming. And it literally was a lot of love in the room and other family members and stuff like that. It's just a nice way to honor some of those other moments that don't get really published and they don't get to be really seen. Um, so yeah, that's a really fun thing. That this is the second year of the show, so I hope she keeps doing it because it's been great.
Did you say the Gladstone?
The Gladstone Hotel, yeah.
Okay, cool. That's great. Yeah, it's definitely important. I find, as someone who's working in the creative arts, to get inspired and to intake a lot of visual goodies. As far as photography goes, are there any other wedding photographers that you like? You appreciate their work or that have inspired you in the past or?
Yeah, lots. I love your work.
Me.
Uh, yeah, for sure. I remember finding your work years ago, and I was like, oh yeah, this guy's good. um, Spencer, of course. Spencer is just totally out there, but I love it.
Yeah.
I love some of the Italian girls that I will never be able to pronounce their names.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I will not even try. Nick Tucker from London. I love his documentary approach. It's amazing. Who else? I'm trying to think of. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who else. These are like the top ones, I guess. I kind of
Awesome.
I find that Sam Blake. I actually love her so much. But yeah, I don't really look at. I don't follow people as much as I used to. Just more like the ones that I'm interested in, like the ones that I mentioned. Yeah, some of them are not showing. That's the thing that happens is that like some of these photographers don't show as much work, most of them anymore. It's just a thing that happens. But yeah,
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
interesting. It's true, definitely. I mean, I feel like I've got a mountain of stuff to show, and I, for some reason, don't really. It's weird. That's actually kind of strange in a weird way. I mean, I feel like you're right about that. I feel like now it's not so important to sort of have my blog change every day. It's more important to make sure that my clients on the back end and their families and people that I'm actually connected to on the business side of things, that all that is really, really well taken care of.
Yeah,
Um, it seems, I don't know, it just seems more important to me to make sure that they're taken care of rather than to show the whole world new stuff every minute, which,
yeah, totally. And I think when you first start out, there's a bit of like you need to get the pat on the back from the industry, and after a while, you don't need it as much. Obviously, it's nice still to get people who you can connect with, but yeah, it becomes less about like check out my work, aren't I awesome, and more like I'll do it when I have time. Like you said, like when all the other stuff is done, then maybe. And some of it is kind of private and personal, so I feel like I don't even want to show some of it, even though I would love to. But
so just to wrap up things here, I've jumped onto your Instagram and it looks like you are keeping it pretty tight. There's lots of great work on there. Like it's really consistent. Do you find the Instagram? I mean, some photographers I've spoken to find I'll call it the grind.
yeah,
It's sort of like it's like this grind where you feel like it's like Instagram is almost a job in and of itself.
yeah,
And you can put anything you want on there, but I love the work that you've chosen. I think you have a fantastic eye. It's very cheeky, it's very fun. It's not taking yourself too seriously, but there is again images and frames that are very classic and very well composed, and I love that mix. I think it's really important. I mean, I think humans are complicated people, and sometimes we, do one thing and say the other, and say we love one thing, and then you do the
yeah,
opposite, or don't show that, or don't always deliver what we're talking about. I feel like humans are complicated, and I love seeing I love seeing the different sides of people that you can show. You have like in one frame very warm and sort of romantic and very intimate, and the next frame it's like, hey, check out this hot shirt, awesome. So I just feel that's being honest as a human being. It's not it's just that's what it's about. It's not about keeping it consistent. It's just about keeping things honest. And I really love your work, and I love your website, and I'm really happy you had a chance to sit with me and to chat about this stuff.
thank you so much.
Thanks so much. And is there anything you want to close with, or can we just leave it at that?
I just want to thank you. Like, this is amazing. The fact that you just wanted to talk to me, I'm so happy. I'm so happy to be interviewed by you because, like I said, I love your work, and I just think this was amazing. Thank you so much.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks so much for talking, and we'll see you again.
Okay, bye.